Okay, now hello and welcome to yet another section of Success Mantra. This is Adarsh Vili, and today's topic, we are coming straight to the topic. Today's class is for class. Today's session is for class 10th. Okay, and here we have the history section today, and today we are going to study one chapter from the history book, and it's an important chapter for your final exam also, and especially this class is for the students who are appearing for the exams in 2023 this session. So you have very less time remaining now, and quickly we will look at the chapter. And today's chapter that we are going to study, this is World War. Okay, we are going to study about the First World War today. Okay, so as you can see behind that, I have written here some points, and we are going to discuss about these points. That is the First World War at a glance. So the topic today is First World War at a glance. Okay, and in this chapter we are going to discuss about the different causes, and also that how the First World War was fought, what was the date between which it was fought, okay, what type of methods were adopted, and there are so many different aspects that we are going to see today in this chapter. Okay, so let's get started without wasting any time. Okay, all of you are ready? So here we are that this is the First World War at a glance. First World War, this is the name of your chapter today. So if we see that first of all the date between which the First World War was fought. So the date it is from 1914 to 1918. These 4 years, okay, starting in 1914 to 1918, during these 4 years this war was fought, and this was one war in which we call as World War, because mostly you see that the countries of the Europe and also the Asian countries, they participated in this war. So that is why you see that it is termed as the First World War. Okay, because most of the countries were involved in this. Okay, so see here that first of all the date that is given, that is 1914 to 1918. Okay, so this is the first point. You should remember that it is fought between this period of 4 years. And then the next thing is that it was fought worldwide, on the worldwide scale. It was fought on the worldwide scale, which means that as I have told you that mostly you see that all the countries or European countries as well as the Asian countries, okay, they were participating in this war. Okay, so that is why it is known as the war. It was a worldwide war. Okay, now you see that before this war started, okay, much before that there were some things which were happening in the world. You will find that there were some countries like Germany, like England, like the Portuguese. All these countries, they were already into a rivalry, and the whole scenario of the world was such that there was a lot of chaos in the worldwide, and every country was trying to prove itself superior. And you know that this war is also, if you go in the background, you will see that this war was fought to fulfill the selfish motives and to fulfill the greed and to capture the market. Okay, mostly you see that there were economical reasons were also behind this war, this First World War, because every country was trying to establish its colony in the other country. Okay, why? Because after the Industrial Revolution, there was a change in the pattern of the market. Okay, and these countries who are mostly developed countries in that during that period, okay, these countries, European countries like Germany, like England, these countries were developed, and Industrial Revolution has affected the whole Europe, and there was they were in search of the new market. So what policy they were adopting, that they were trying to go to the countries, Asian countries, to the African countries, where they can find a new market. Okay, why? Because due to the Industrial Revolution, there was a need to sell their products. Okay, and they wanted to capture new markets, and they wanted to establish their rule. So there was definitely a rivalry which was going on between these countries. Now the second reason is that because of the new technology, because of the industrial revolution, what happened that there was a new technology was introduced. Okay, and many new experiments were done, many new researches were done, and the defense system of every country was becoming better and better, and there was lot of production of the war material was produced at the large number. Okay, like you can say that guns, tanks, bombs, okay, bullets, they were produced in a large number. Okay, so every country was trying to prove itself better than the other by and they were having a type of a arm race. Arm race means that they wanted to produce more weapon than their neighboring country. Okay, just because they wanted to be strong. Okay, so here we can in the third point you can see that the new method of defense. Okay, new method of defense and destructions were used. Okay, because of the armament, because of the race of the arms, every country has become very strong, and they have developed a new system of defense and destruction. And naturally, when you have something like your defense system is very good, then you feel that the other country is not so strong. Okay, so though one country is trying to threaten the other country. Okay, then you see that so this is how you see that the world war started, and what was the cause. In briefly we can say that the cause of the war was mostly loss of life. Okay, the first thing that happens in a war, that when the war is fought, both the countries are affected. Okay, naturally you see that there was a lot of destruction in terms of life, because many people have to lose their life, and not only the soldiers but the civilians were also affected directly or indirectly. Okay, and then you see that because of this many countries became financially ruined. Okay, they became so weak, there was no financial setup, all the things, infrastructure and the financial setup was destroyed. Okay, so now what happened that because of this war, at the end of this war, the world war first ended after 4 years, but you see that it left some permanent wounds on some of the countries, and they were trying to seek revenge. Okay, so we can also say that the First World War was actually a ground on which the Second World War was fought. So the First World War also prepared a ground for the Second World War. So first thing, it was fought in 1914 till 1918. Secondly, it was fought worldwide, which means that most of the countries of the world, they were participating in this war. Third, that new methods and new technology of defense and destructions were used, and as a result there was a lot of loss of life and property, there was a financial ruin, and it also sowed the seed for the Second World War. Okay, now you see, now we come to the causes, that what were the causes of the war. So the first cause was narrow nationalism and imperialism. Okay, now what is narrow nationalism? Narrow nationalism is a word which we can use that when we say that we are superior than others. Okay, we say that we are superior but others are inferior. That is known as narrow nationalism, because they did not have a global thinking. What they thought, one country thought, like take the example of Germany. The Germans thought that they were better race, they were master race. Okay, under Adolf Hitler, they were thinking that they were the master race, and what they have to do, that they are better than other races. So in this way you see that there was a narrow nationalism and imperialism. Imperialism means that when one country is trying to set up its colonies in the other country and make it slave, that is known as the imperialism. Okay, now the second thing we see over here, that is known as the armament, or the armament means the race to develop new arms. Okay, not only to develop new arms but also being eager to use it. So every country was developing new arms and ammunition, and they were trying to be revengeful to what? They were trying to revengeful to the other country. So that is known as the armament race. Then one more thing which became the cause of the World War I, that is the division of Europe. Okay, Europe was divided into many groups. Okay, Europe was divided into many groups, and that was the reason why we find that okay, now you can see here that we are talking about the division of the Europe. So you see that Europe was divided into several groups. Okay, and some groups were friendly with one group. So this is how you see that when you have many groups, then naturally there is a rivalry among these groups. So this is what happened in Europe, that Europe was divided into many groups. Then you see that there is another point over here, which means the lack of international organization. Now today you see that if any unrest goes in the world, then what happens? We have agencies like what we have UN, that is United Nations organization. You have, all of you are aware of UNO. So you see that this is United Nations organization. So at the time when the First World War was fought, at the time there was no such agency like United Nations organization to establish world peace. Okay, so this is how you see that there was nobody to stop them from fighting. Okay, now here comes the narrow meaning of the narrow nationalism and imperialism. Okay, so by the word narrow nationalism, what we mean that 19th century was an era of the militant and aggressive nationalism, which means that the full 19th century was such that we see that every country was becoming more and militant nationalism, means that one country was trying to capture, to enter into the boundaries of the other country. They wanted to capture their land, and that is why you see that this was known as the era of the militant nationalism. And aggressive nationalism means that they wanted to threaten their neighbor. One country is trying to threaten the country which is weak. Okay, so that is why. And then we have one more thing, that there was such thing like love for one country and hatred for the other. We all love our country, but this doesn't mean that we started hating the other country. Okay, but you see that in that era, what we find that people were such that they love their country, and they also hated the other country. Okay, so this is a very dangerous situation. And then here we talk about the colonial rivalry. Okay, now colonial rivalry means what? Like, take an example of colonies. Okay, now you see that those countries who were well developed at that time, take the example of England. What they were doing, that they were going in the poor countries, okay, and where they were establishing their colonies. Like India was also a colony of Britishers. Similarly, they set up their colonies in Africa also. They set up their colonies in many other countries. Okay, so this is how you see that now the other countries also wanted to do the same thing. Okay, they also wanted to establish their colonies. So naturally there was a fight between these two, and this became the cause for the First World War. Okay, so this is how we see